Hello, everyone. Please welcome Babette Bensoussan to the conference. Babette is known as the decision-making maverick, and she's going to share best practices from her coaching of women entrepreneurs. So, Babette, welcome to the conference.
Thank you, Deb. Thank you very much. And I've been coaching women entrepreneurs for quite a while. And one of the things I've noticed, even with men as well, we're all humans, is that we get in the way of our own success. And so I want to talk to you all today about what we do and how we get in the way of our own success. So let me ask you, this is the wheel of life. These are all the issues that we have in our life. And how are you going in every one of these? Now, what I've seen is that most people don't end up having a wheel. They tend to focus on one part and not on another. And so there's not a balance in life. And so the question is, well, how do you create that balance in life? Because if you keep doing what you keep doing, then you're going to end up with a crooked wheel or a wheel that doesn't quite turn. So let me ask you, and just take a minute to answer these questions. What 3 changes do you most want to make in your life? Write down 3 quick things that you'd like to change in your life. Maybe less time at work or more time with friends. What do you most want to achieve out of those 3 things? And are you ready to achieve them? Often we stick to habit. It's easy. It's our comfort zone, but it doesn't create what you want to create. So what intention do you have for your life presently? Do you want to change, or are you happy to keep on the same system that you've always been on? Because it's easy. It's far easier to stick with what you've been doing than it is to change. Now, the interesting thing is, how do we create the change in our lives? How do we do that? The interesting thing is our thoughts. So the energy that we have in our life and how we attract things comes from this basic principle of our thoughts create feelings, our feelings create behavior, and behavior attracts likes. So if there are 3 things you want to change in your life, what has stopped you from changing those in the past and doing that? What is it that's stopping you from changing things? And I'd like to suggest it's your thoughts. So if you're still doing the same things all the time, what are you really attracting? Is work hard? Are you not getting what you want to achieve? What are your thoughts around that? What kind of energy also are you giving out as a leader? These are serious and important questions for successful entrepreneurs. You know, they say, oh, believe in yourself. But if you've got a belief that you're not good enough deep down, then that's what you will attract. That is what you will bring. So I want to talk to you about a tool that I use, and I have been absolutely blown away by the way this tool can help you manage and change and measure the change of your thinking. So I want to introduce you to the Energy Leadership Index and the whole thought around energy leadership and how you can use that to improve your leadership skills and business skills. So let me explain to you what is energy leadership. So energy leadership was developed by a psychologist in America, Bruce Schneider. And what he said is, in essence, there are 7 levels of energy. And of these 7 levels, levels 1 and 2 are what he calls catabolic energy. Now, catabolic energy is draining, resisting, negative, destructive energy. So while it's great, when you're angry, you want to tell people what to do and, you're motivated by your anger. It's great. It works, but you can't sustain it long term. And the organization can't sustain your anger for long term either. So levels 3 to 7, he said, are anabolic energy. And anabolic energy is constructive, building, growth-oriented healing energy. And this energy helps you to achieve long-term positive, successful results. And when you have this anabolic energy, you're much more likely to see opportunities, options, new ways of thinking, innovation, and so forth. So we know in science that like attracts like, and we each attract and create the world we think about. So it's important to understand that as an entrepreneur, if you want to be successful, you need to change your thinking from catabolic to anabolic. And remember, catabolic is driven by stress, anabolic is you're engaged. So there's a tremendous opportunity to shift your business around this idea. Now, what I'd like to do is I'm going to go deeper into the energies of the 7 levels. And you are welcome to identify where you sit most of the time. And I've got some stories to share with you of how people, as a result of coaching, were able to shift their energy and shift the way they see the world, and have gone on to great success, I might add. So the 7 levels of energy. So I'm going to take you through each of the levels, and if we can change how we think, we therefore change how we behave. And if we change how we behave, we in fact change our reality. So level 1. So level 1 is the victim level, and it's all about apathy, lethargy. I lose is the key principle. So if you want some help, what I would suggest is you could write down for each level the key perception or thought, and then we can work on that later. So for level 1, it's I can't win. Why bother? Why say anything? People are against me. So the key perception at level 1 is I lose. Okay. And it's the victim here. We all understand what the victim is someone who believes they have no power. And when you're an entrepreneur, you have a certain amount of power. So the question is, why, when you're stressed, do you believe you lose? Level 2 is about defiance. And sadly, it's about conflict and anger. And this is the world we live in. It is about the key perception here is I win, you lose. If you look at the law, if you look at government contracts, if you look at the way people negotiate with each other, it's all about I win, you lose. And this is the world we live in. It's full of anger, conflict, and defiance. So corporate catabolism can often be reflected in the culture. So there are many ways that we do it. So you might pull on the most valuable resources. You will have internally, if you're constantly anger, in conflict, and defiant, people will say, oh, we've done this before, or it didn't work, or we tried this before. That kind of thinking drains the organization, drains your ability to succeed, and in the end will result in a drop in performance and profits. Your workforce will leave, they are exhausted. So the question is, instead of saying we've done this before, the question may be, well, what are our options to move forward? That's a more anabolic way of approaching a situation. Level 3, we now move into the anabolic area. And this is where we have cooperation. And this is where we start taking responsibility for how we think, how we live, what we believe, our own actions, what is happening to us. And in this energy level, we look for forgiveness, we try to understand, and we look for cooperation. People with a lot of level 3 energy are people who rationalize. So they will rationalize what is going on around them. And their focus here is, I win, and hopefully you win too. However, as long as I win first. So we're moving out of the catabolic into the anabolic. And the issue is, I win, hopefully you win too, as long as I win first. And we come across this a great deal in people who say win-win. You know, oh, we're after a win-win here. We all win. Crap. Sorry. We're all saying is, I win. Hopefully you win too, as long as I win first. Because there is a completely different mindset when it comes to how do we really all win. So level 4 is now the level of service. It's all about concern, compassion for the other. And the key thought here, or key perception, is you win. Volunteers are quite often in this area. People who set up charities, not-for-profits, who try to do things for others with compassion, service. People who work, and help in so many different aged care or other ways. These are people who work from level 4 energy of how do I make you win? How do I help you win? Level 5 now, we are moving into the real anabolic levels, is all about acceptance. It's about reconciliation. It's about peace. We all win or no one wins. And when we think about this, this is the true win-win situation. And when we have that mental thought, when we go into negotiations, we all win or no one wins. There is a lot more happening of acknowledgement of options, opportunities, things we can do. I'm hoping this is all making sense to you. I will pull it all together in a minute. Level 6 is wisdom. And at this level, we have joy, we have wisdom. Very few people have a lot of level 6 energy. That tends to be, we always win, because it tends to require a great deal of reflection, a great deal of understanding. We always win. People who, no matter what has happened, there is always a lesson in it. There is always, we will always win, because there's always something to learn. You're never at the effect of something. You're able to win and win and accept even the losses and the failures, because you've learned. You always win. And this means you're taking a longer term view of things rather than reacting short term to things. And finally, level 7 is all about creation. Most geniuses will tap into this, as will entrepreneurs. Please don't get me wrong. We have all of us have all 7 levels. It depends what quantity you have of all the 7 levels. But the key thing is that at level 7, winning and losing are illusions. They are the rules that we humans created to play the game of life. So level 7, we all have some of it. As I said earlier, it depends what we have, how much we have of each of the levels. So let me give you an example of, as you're an entrepreneur, one of the things that often happens is you start looking at having people work with you to help you move your business forward. So here are 2 generalized profiles of people that we tend to work with, just so that you understand how shall I put it? How you can understand how people come forward and present at work with different kinds of energy. So we have a woman, Vicky, who's a victim, and it could be a man. Please don't get me wrong. So victim 1 is not confident, avoids making decisions, is apathetic. So you might say, well, what do you think? And they'll go, I don't know. What do you say? They're unproductive and they're uncommitted. They'll just do what their job is. That's not my job. This is what I do. Profile 2 does tend to be, so let me say something. Profile 1 does tend to fall more to women. Profile 2 does tend to fall a little bit more to the male side. So profile 2, yep, my way is the right way or the highway. We've done this before, no need to do it, doesn't trust others, suppresses creativity. Their way is the right way and are confident. They come across as defensive, argumentative, or controlling. Now, when we work with these kinds of people, it is really hard to have a positive energy that enables you to grow your business and to get the funding you need. So let me show you. So I've talked about the 7 levels, but let me show you exactly how this appears when people have been coached. So the Energy Leadership Index is an online tool that you can do that shows where your mix of the 7 levels of energy are. And it provides 3 key areas. The first one is where your profile is when you're happy, when things are normal, when you're not stressed. The second level shows the second graph will show you where you go when you're stressed and where you default to when you're stressed. And then you have an average resonating level. And the average resonating level is a sum of both your energetic level and your stress level, where you end up on average. So what I'm going to show you is how some clients that I've worked with changed their energy and changed their lives as a result of changing their thinking with coaching. So here's example number 1. So as you can see, if we look at the top on the left-hand side, we have someone's energetic profile. And that is they have a mixture, as I said, of all 7 levels. Now, look where their energy goes when they're stressed. So in their energetic profile, their top levels of energy are level 5 and level 3. So their primary is level 5, their secondary is level 3. So they're anabolic generally. But when they're stressed, look where they go to level 1 and level 2. So what this tells me is that this person defaults to the victim when they're stressed. They believe they have no power. They believe they can't do anything. They can't change their lives. And their average resonating level is a 3.57. So this is an anabolic person, as we can see from their energetic profile. They're very good, but look at the damage they do when they're stressed. Look where they go when they're stressed. Now, the chart on the right is after 6 months of coaching, where their thinking changed. So look at where they are now. So level 5 is still their primary. Level 3 is identical. So level 5 and 3 are both primary, and level 6 is now their secondary. And look at their energetic stress reaction. Look how they have changed. While they still may get angry, they have far more balance in their stress time. They have far more control of what their options are, what the opportunities are when they're stressed. And look at their average resonating level. It's gone from 3.57 to 4.9. And look at the level, if you just want to look at level, how their energy, their anabolic energy has grown in their energetic profile. Look how the anabolic energy has also grown in their stress. So here they are being far more constructive, far more opportunistic when they're stressed, rather than defaulting, I can't get this capital, or I don't know who to approach, or people who, I don't know where to go, what to do. That's a victim. That's not someone who's anabolic and looking at options. Let's look at profile number 2. So again, we have level 5 and level 4 are the two main primary energetic levels, followed by level 6. No, level 3. Yes, level 3. So this is also a person who's anabolic. Normally with their thinking, when they're not stressed, they're great, they're positive, they're contributors. Look where they go when they're stressed. Go down to level 1 again. Level 2 are their main sources. Now, after 6 months of coaching, look at the difference in the chat, in their profile. Look at the difference. Look where their energy dropped. Level 1 and 2 has gone back. All their anabolic energy has increased. And when you look at their energetic stress reaction, look how under stress they are far more positive. They are far more growth-oriented. They can see far more options and opportunities than ever before. Hold on. Now, I can see there's questions in the chat. Can we get those questions in the chat out so that I'm happy to answer them as we proceed? While I'm waiting for that to occur so that we can see how the chat works, the questions in the chat, I'll take you to a third profile again. So again, have a look at this one. Another person that was fairly anabolic. Let me say to you that people who have more anabolic energy are more likely to go and get coaching, when the people who have catabolic energy are the ones who really need some coaching. So again, if we look at all of these at the left-hand side, we have again a very anabolic person. But look at the damage they do to themselves when they're stressed. They keep going to level 1 and 2, which is catabolic. And that's negative thinking. That doesn't allow them to move forward in ways they can move forward. And if you look at your energetic profile on the right-hand side, look how they've become far more anabolic and less catabolic. And look at the amount of energy in their stress profile that's moved up to be anabolic. Again, here's another one that really made some big changes. So look at this. They were in their energetic profile. Again, where they went when they were stressed, their average resonating level was a 2.94. And after coaching, look at the right-hand side. Look at how much anabolic energy they have in both their energetic profile and their stress profile. And they jumped from a 2.94 to a 4.2. I have to say that client I coached for a year. So yeah, I've been talking to you about the difference in the different energies. But let me point out to you, this is really interesting because look what just a change of 0.5 has done. This is based on research of a number of people who have been doing the energy profile, the Energy Leadership Index, and they've been doing it for quite some time. And what has happened is they've found that people who do the Energy Leadership Index, and they've measured it over time and what they've done, have a look, 20% increase in financial success, 15% more satisfaction in relationships, 14% greater personal freedom, 16% increase in productivity. What about 17% in time management and 15% in work-life balance, 20% increase in overall combined energy level? This is just a shift of 0.5. So if I go back, so here we go. We've got 3.57. This is a 0.5 change if you look at the average resonating level. Just simply 0.5. Look at the change in that person's overall well-being. Here's another one. Again, this is 0.5. Look at the change in the person's well-being from the left to the right. This one, okay, that was a year, so that was a big leap. But when the client came to me to start with, his hands were crossed and he wanted to know, what can you do for me? And now he runs a successful business for first home buyers. And he's an entrepreneur. He gets the money, the funding, and helps people buy their first properties. So there's a lot that can change in the way you think. Remember, it's your thoughts create your reality. And if you can change your thoughts, you change your reality. So, how is your current leadership approach working to bring about improvements? What are the things you're doing that are getting in your way? What do you believe you could accomplish if you and your colleagues were completely engaged? But finally, I want to ask you, how is your thinking serving you? Is it creating the reality you want? You know, our realities create our perceptions and thoughts. Your thoughts will create your energy level, and that creates what you're attracting. In turn, this creates the scope of your vision and purpose. I can't get over how many people, when they look at what they want to achieve, look very short term and don't look at the full vision of what is possible. You know, I love Lao Tzu. He has really said it so well. What's your thoughts? They become words. And that's true. If you think negative, you will say negative. What's your words? They become actions. What's your actions? They become habits. What's your habits? They become character. What's your character? It becomes your destiny. And it all starts with your thoughts. Now, let me go a little bit into thoughts because I think this is important. We tend to have 4 key types of thoughts. They are our biases or blind spots, the assumptions we have, interpretations, and limiting belief. So a bias is a belief or a thought that this is the way the world is. An assumption is where you assume that you're not good enough, or that could also be a bias. But let's say a bias is pretty people have an easier life, or an assumption is, well, I'm not good enough. Well, that's also a limiting belief. An assumption is, well, this is the way it is in business. An interpretation is, well, let's say a dear friend walks past you or a colleague, and normally they smile and they say hello, and they haven't. They've walked past and they've got this filthy look on their face. And you go, oh my God, what have I done? Now, you don't know whether they've had an argument with a spouse, whether a child was sick all night, whether they've been given an ultimatum about something. You've made an assumption about their behavior, but you've interpreted it vis-a-vis yourself. And so you say, what have I done? Now that's an interpretation, and they have nothing to do with you. A limiting belief is when we believe that we can't do something, or we're not good enough, or we don't belong here, or we have nothing to contribute. These are all limiting beliefs. If you have any of those, then your bales are limiting what you can achieve. They're limiting your energy. They are creating the energy of your thoughts. So it's now time, I believe, for all entrepreneurs to consciously choose how they want to live and lead. And managing your mind is the essence of life management, whether it's your personal or your business. So what are your next steps? Okay, what are the next steps going forward? Well, in what ways can I live with more anabolic energy? How can you live this way? What are some new things you can do? What opportunities do I have nearly every day in situations and people I see to practice being more anabolic? So excuse me. Remember when I said to you, please write down the key thoughts. So let's go through them again. So level 1 is I lose. Level 2, I win, you lose. Level 3, I win, and hopefully you win too, as long as I win first. Level 4, you win. Level 5, we all win or no one wins. Level 6, we always win. And level 7, winning and losing are illusions. So let me give you a personal story. When I first started my training as a coach and did this program and did the Energy Leadership Index, I thought I was, my average resonating level, I thought, I'm definitely a 3 and a 4. I've done a lot of spiritual work. It turned out I was a level 2.9. I was devastated when I found out that my average resonating level was 2.9. And I thought, I've got to change this. I've got to change the way I think. I've got to change the way. So I went into coaching and I got a coach, luckily in my program, and I got supervisors and everything. And my thinking started to change. So what happened in order to succeed is I started to move from my level 2, which was I win, you lose. And I thought, no, every time I go into a meeting now, I'm going to go in from level 2. How do I help this person opposite me win? Which is level 4. So I went in with a level 4. How do I help this person in front of me win? What can I do to be of support to this person in front of me? So I started that. And then after a while, I said, no, we both deserve to win. So I then go in, how do we both win? Or we both lose. So I go in now into all meetings and all relationships with, how do we both win? How do we achieve success for both of us? So for my clients, how can I support them in their endeavors? How can I be of service to them? How can I help them win? Because if I help them win, then I win too. I'm a good coach. And that was important to me. So find yourself a coach for you to reflect on and to develop the necessary skills you need to become more self-aware. What energy are you bringing to your business? How are you doing it? So I thought to help you all out, I would do a special offer that I would give you a 50% discount on the Energy Leadership Index, which includes a 1-hour debrief. So you can do it, you can see where your thinking lies, where you're going, and we can talk about opportunities for moving forward. So I hope this has been of interest to you and of value to you of how, as entrepreneurs, we are getting in the way of our own success. It's not the world that's getting in the way of our success. It's our thinking. And I think it's important that we understand how we can really change our thinking, and therefore we can change our reality. So here's my email address. Here's my mobile phone number. And you're welcome to reach out to me anytime. I thought I'd give plenty of time for questions because this is such an important area of how we change our topic and our thinking. So let me see. Are there any questions? Deb, do we have any questions and discussions that we can have?
Hey, Babette. Really, really great presentation. Thank you so much. We have several comments and questions. Let me take it from the top.
Because I can't see any at the moment.
No problem. I'll share them with you. It says, in Asia, there is a different mindset. Not trying to generalize, but some societies look for harmony and understanding versus
Yes.
the mindset of the West is mostly a world of win-lose mindsets. How can we work together if the other side does not really want any win-win?
That's a really good question. So It means for me, it's telling me that there hasn't been a good understanding of what is important to the other side. Because if the other side is coming from a win-win, a win-lose where they want to win, then we haven't understood. You've got the Western world, yes, I agree, but I would also disagree that the Asian mindset is not always that way. Just try and negotiate with the Chinese as an example. But people, if we don't understand the drivers of anyone in a negotiation, of anyone in negotiations, then we haven't understood their thinking as to where they're coming from to help us negotiate in a far better way. See, what's often happened is you've got one party coming from here, another party coming from here. And instead of saying, well, this is what we're negotiating, versus tell me, what are some of the critical success factors for you? Here are my critical success factors. How can we work on it? Now you're moving more to an anabolic or harmonious way of approach. But often people go, well, here we are, we're only going to do 20%, give you 20% funding. Well, what is a critical success factor for you? This is my critical success factor. And maybe it doesn't work because that person is immovable. Fine. But don't be a victim and say, oh, I can't get funding. Find somebody else. You know? So I often find it's because when I ask clients, well, what did you ask the opposing party about? What did you understand their drivers were? What are your clear drivers? They haven't thought it through. So I often think people just don't ask questions enough of the other parties to get greater negotiation. And I always think of Kissinger's and other big negotiators in the world have all said you need to understand the drivers of the other party. And people don't. Entrepreneurs don't. They tend to go in with, I need $100 million or I need $1 million. Well, what is it that is important to the other party for them to give you that funding? And I think that's what a lot of people miss. Ask questions.
Such a great point. You know, there's that self orientation, right? And focus on self. And it's interesting because one of the other sessions we had in the conference was all about leading with a servant's heart. And I really like that because, you know, you're really, you know, touching on that very much about, you know, you really have to understand the perspectives of the other party, and you have to ask the right questions. And you have to, in many cases, you have to change and shift your mindset away off of yourself, and you're pushing into more of a pull to extract the information you need so that you can kind of find that common ground. And I think that's hard for a lot of people because they're so focused on selling and pushing and, you know, and making that sale that oftentimes they lose sight.
Correct. And that is level 2, catabolic. I win, you lose.
Yeah.
And that creates real problems for entrepreneurs, getting the funding, getting what they need. If you start moving to the servant mindset, which is, how can I help you win? How can I be of service? Which is what I discussed earlier. That is, you know, you have to ask questions of the other to understand the other. So, yeah.
You know, I know that you coach a lot of women entrepreneurs. And so share with us what some of the common challenges you see that they face when it comes to decision making. How do you help them kind of get over some of those hurdles?
It really, that's a good thought. A lot of women entrepreneurs, when they get stressed, go to the victim. they believe they have no power. They believe, so the one thing I do when I work with women entrepreneurs is to try and change their belief that they have no power. So a client the other day has issues with her family. She's an entrepreneur, runs her own accounting practice and all the rest. And I've been coaching her for a while. And she texted me the other day that she had issues with her family because her family tend to say, oh, well, you're the girl in the family. You know, you should be doing this. You shouldn't be doing that. And she texted me and she said, I'm standing tall and confident with my family. And I thought, yes, you know, her thinking had shifted, that she had a right to think the way she wanted to think, that she had power in her. And when she said, I'm standing tall and confident with my family, I think that's important. And I think a lot of women entrepreneurs need to stand tall and confident. I was coaching an Indian woman, and she and her husband are in business together. But so the husband is working in the business and she's working in the business, working at home with the two girls, looking after the two girls and everything, and doesn't believe, she's overwhelmed. She is completely overwhelmed with both family, husband, the Indian culture and everything. And what we've been working on is, it's okay, but ask questions. You're feeling overwhelmed, but move to the next stage. Ask questions to understand what other people, what can you delegate? That was another big issue for this woman, was delegating. She felt she had to do everything herself, which a lot of women tend to do. You know, you do the ironing, the laundry, the washing, the cleaning, the this, and then trying to run a business. You don't have to do everything yourself. You can outsource. You can get help in, you know, and it may be just 1 hour a day, or, you know, AI might be able to rewrite an article for you. You've got to think laterally, but when you are in victim mode, when you are in catabolic state, you do not see options or opportunities. And that is really hard for a lot of women because they believe they've got to do everything. No, you don't. It is okay to get help, to outsource, you know, and there are so many ways to do things that are not expensive either. And the question then is always, it's an economic question. I always think of it, what I learned in economics. If it costs you, if your time is worth $100 an hour to get your business up and running, and you spend it doing the laundry or the cleaning, which costs you $10 an hour, is that a good way of spending your time? And the answer is no. You outsource it and you spend another hour. While you pay someone $10, you spend another hour earning that $100 by working for a client or working for something. So, okay, you might not get $100, you'll get $90, but you've had things happen. And that's what I'm saying is people don't think outside the box when they're stressed. And it's
unfortunately, that's, you know, and that's where the comfort is, you know,
yes.
And so it's kind of, it doesn't feel good, but it feels better than maybe the fear of the unknown, right?
Correct. And comfort zone is habit.
Yeah.
And habit is destiny. It's character and destiny. And if you want to grow a business, you've got to move out of your comfort zone. You really do, you know.
Well, that kind of brings us to the next question, which is about risk taking. Again, in the context, especially for women entrepreneurs, can you discuss the importance of risk taking for women, and how can they navigate that balance between calculated risk and caution?
So that often tells me that's a hard question to answer because there is no generic answer. Okay. Firstly, I'd want to know if there's any risk involved, how well informed are you about your marketplace and the environment? Remember our panel discussion earlier in the conference about intelligence and understanding your competitive environment. If we don't understand our competitive environment clearly and understand what's involved, then the level of risk is very high. But if you've done some understanding of who your competitors are, possible disruptors, you've tried to learn as much as you can, the risk level is lowered because you're informed. So if someone is uninformed, yeah, the risk level is high, but there's no generic answer, I think, to that question. Every business will have some form of risk, every business. The question is, A, what are you willing to accept? And if you're a person that wants all the I's dotted and the T's crossed, then you shouldn't be an entrepreneur. It won't happen.
That's a great point. And you're right about arming yourselves with information so that you can, be making an informed decision and not relying on your instincts. And you have to do that work. And so that was another question too about, what role does intuition play in the decision-making process? But I think the critical success factor here, to your point is they have to rely on data and analysis.
They have to do their due diligence. If you do not do your due diligence of looking at your business environment, of looking at who are your potential competitors, who are potential disruptors in what you're doing, if you don't do your due diligence and know your market, why would someone put their money in your business if you can't answer some basic questions about the competitive environment? And I think that's, to me, that's a bit of anabolic thinking. You're saying, well, I've got this product or I've got this service, I win. If you don't put money in, you lose. It doesn't work. It doesn't work that way. It's, you've done your due diligence around your business and your product. You've got the right kind of thinking going into the entrepreneurs, to venture capitalists. You have, the more positive your energy, the more anabolic your energy, the more you're likely to attract that kind of thing in your life. And I look at, I coached a whole lot of women entrepreneurs, and one group I did, a good 10 years ago. So this woman was working in AI kind of service. And she was the only one when there was a meeting set up with venture capitalists. So all the women entrepreneurs in this cohort were invited to present their business to some venture capital, a bit like Shark Tank. I don't know if you've seen Shark Tank. This woman was the only one who outright, during her presentation, talked about her business, gave the competitive environment, and asked for the money. None of the other women actually asked for the money. Her energy was positive. She was amazing. And in fact, she's the second female entrepreneur-led business that is now on the New York Stock Exchange out of Australia. So, but her energy was positive, anabolic. She understood the needs of the venture capitalists. She asked for a lot of money too, but she believed in herself. She had great, she didn't have a limiting beliefs. Well, she'd had some, but she'd overcome them. She really delivered a positive way, an anabolic way, that the venture capitalists wanted to come on board. And I think it's important that we remember that like attracts like. This is energy. And we each in our own way are attracting the like that we're bringing into our lives. So for me, there is no generic answer to risk. How well have you reviewed your environment, your competitive landscape, and how positive and energized are you around your product and service?
You know, it's interesting that, you know, hearing you say this, it makes me think about some conversations I've had lately about, you know, you have to do your homework, right? You have to look outside the four walls of your business externally, and you know, and that provides all kinds of information and insights that can, you know, arm you to you know, to plan more effectively. You're going to, by doing that, you know, you're going to get a sense of certainly the industry that you're serving and what's going on there, understanding the
Absolutely.
competitive landscape, what's going on there, what's happening with your suppliers, you know, if you're in a business that's regulated by the government, what's happening there. You just have to, you know, take your blinders off about the four walls that you're in, and take a look outside. And so I think that, to your point, that if, you know, if any entrepreneur, women or not, are able to do that effectively, then they're armed with the information so they can answer the questions, because they're going to get those questions
Yes.
asked of them, you know, in front of those investors, right?
Yeah. You know, Deb, I think there are two elements, and this is why I focus on decision making. The first element is around your business. How well, as you said, how well informed are you about the landscape? How well you know your business, right? So that is a key understanding that needs to be had with entrepreneurs, whether male, female, whatever. We need to understand the competitive landscape and what's likely to happen. The second thing around decision making is around your personal decision making. How are you getting in the way of your own success? You know, yes, you need to understand the risks involved in your business and what's going on, but how are you getting in the way of that success? Because these are the two things that come together. It's not one or the other. You've got to have both. And if you don't have both working for you, okay, so what can you do to have both working for you? How do you understand the competitive landscape? How do you understand your bales and your energy levels and your thinking that's coming? So I would say you can't have one without the other, because there's your business and there's you, and the two of you together are what you're trying to create. So
Exactly.
yeah.
Wow.
Sorry, Deb.
No,
I think
this
you
is
guys.
this is really great. You know, it's interesting. I want to get a sense from you, because you're working with so many of these women entrepreneurs about blind spots, and
Oh,
and you know, and then I think maybe just to get your point of view about, you know, what are some of those blind spots, and how can women entrepreneurs address them more effectively?
the blind spots it's okay. Let me give you some examples. So, taxi companies. Do you think they had a blind spot about Uber when they first started? Hotel. Do you think they had a blind spot when Airbnb came up? These were started by entrepreneurs who are looking for funding. You know, you've got to remember that Uber, Airbnb, just as two examples, were started by entrepreneurs, you know, that were looking for funding. Do you think the taxis and the hotels were looking at disruptors? I don't think they were. I don't think they looked at any new entrants, anything like that. For me, most organizations look for existing competition. They don't look at disruptors. And one of the things you need to be aware of is that venture capitalists don't just get your business. They get a whole lot of other people that are looking for funding. So they're also quite well informed as to what may be going on in your arena, because they may have had someone else come along and give them a very similar idea. And if you're not aware of what's going on, so for me, blind spots is all about, in a business. So let me say that there are two different things. So blind spots in a business is all about not knowing what's coming down a pipeline. Because, hey, we're number one in the market, or typical entrepreneurs. We're so innovative. No one's thought of this idea. Yeah,
We have
crap.
no competition, right?
No competition. I cannot tell you that is the one thing that tends to be missing from a lot of entrepreneurs' packs, competition. And what they do is they look at existing competitors. They don't look at potential new entrants. So, who could replace your product? Is another potential question to ask yourself. So the blind spot for the business is one thing. But we have blind spots about ourselves. We have blind spots about who we are and what we're capable of. And I think, if you're hungry enough, you will overcome those blind spots and go for things. But, sometimes you need to have your thinking challenged, because your blind spots limit you what you can see and what your options are about yourself.
Wonderful. Wonderful. We have just a couple of minutes left here, but I do want to add, there's one other question here that was about the leadership index. It says, so does the leadership index, is it also applicable to solopreneurs and startups?
It's applicable to individuals. So energy leadership is applicable to individuals. So whether you're a solopreneur, how energy leadership identifies how are you getting in the way of your success. So how is your thinking, I should say, getting in the way of your success? When you're stressed and you go to catabolic level, that's not a good place to be when you're stressed and you've got to come up with options. And you're a solo entrepreneur, you're a solopreneur. You have no one to talk to. Well, number one, if you're a solopreneur, I would say go get a mentor straight away, or find someone you respect who you can bounce things around with. Don't just stay in your head because all your bales are there. You've got to get rid of them. So find someone who you respect. And with Zoom these days, you can go anywhere in the world. You can ask people. There are speakers at this conference that you could, or even Deb or Rom, you could call and ask, or myself. There are people, you've got a resource, use it. So that's my
Great advice. Great advice.
Yeah.
Again, I wanted to thank you so much for sharing your expertise with our attendees and all of us. Any last words or one or two key things you want to leave our?
I really come back to what you raised, Deb. There are two things we need to be cognizant of. One is, as entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, whatever you want, there is the organization landscape and the competition, and understanding what is creating the dynamics in where you wish to sell your product and how you wish to get venture capital. But on top of that, there is the personal bales that get in the way of our success. And we need to understand both. It's not one or the other. It's how do we marry both to succeed? And I think that this conference really leads a lot of the way to help people with that.
Well, thank you for that. And thank you again for sharing your wisdom with us all. And
Right.
so how can people get a hold of you? Where can they find
Well,
you?
on the screen sharing, I've got my email address, I've got my mobile number, and I've got my website. And as I said, there is a special offer for those who would like to do the Energy Leadership Index, and that because they'll do it online. It's about 20 minutes, and then they have do a full 1 hour debrief on what that means for them. And then, you know, they can think, and maybe it challenges them in thinking other ways.
That's a beautiful thing. I appreciate that very much. And everyone, I hope you
Pleasure.
take advantage of it. And thanks again, Babette. And everyone, we'll see you all in the next session. Bye for now.
Thank you, Deb. Bye.
Bye-bye.